The story kicks off 249 years ago in a peaceful land. Out of nowhere, a massive portal rips open the sky and ugly-ass demons from another world start beating the crap out of humans. To fight back, the Orthodox Alliance forms the Sky Demon Extermination Corps. But 3 days in, they get wiped out too. A year later, half the Central Plains is dead. The last stand happens in Sichuan, where both Orthodox and non-Orthodox fighters team up. They show some guts and smash a few demons, so the battle drags on for over 2 weeks. But 90% of the army dies, and the rest get dragged off as slaves to the demon world. Our main guy is one of them. He can't use internal energy, so the demons experiment on him for 5 years, torture him, and turn him into a living weapon. He gets brainwashed and becomes part of their subjugation army. For decades, he has invaded other worlds and led massacres, earning a reputation as a deadly commander. After 120 years at the top, he finds a secret that changes everything. He spends 50 years researching it and 65 more planning a rebellion. Now the rebellion has finally started. It's been a week since it began, but the war has already left everything drenched in blood. In a brutal face-off with the Demon King, it's clear the rebellion flops. The Demon King Tarrant looks down on our hero, mocking him for turning against the demons after all these years as a top commander. He even calls him by his old hated name, which pushes my boy over the edge. Snapping with rage, Bro screams his real name loud and clear. "My name is Sabiyang." Tarrant gets curious and says he's been watching him for years. He's not strong or special, but he never gives up, and that's what keeps him alive. So why quit now? Actually, our dude needs to fight the king, just wants to see what he's really capable of. It's all for the next battle. The king laughs, calling it dumb, but kind of bold. Then Tarrant says this is the end, so no second chances. But Bro literally refuses to die. Even with his body wrecked, he roars and unleashes a crazy power that shoots up to the sky. Tarrant recognizes the move. It's a time regression that uses the power of an ancient evil god. Everything Big Ang has suffered for the past 120 years leads up to this moment. Burning with rage, my boy yells straight at Tarrant, warning him to be ready next time because no one's making it out alive. Tarrant just smirks and for the first time shows respect and calls Big Ang the only human worth it. Then everything vanishes in a massive explosion. Cut to 10 years before the demon invasion, back in the peaceful Murim of the Central Plains. A lightning bolt strikes a home, blasting a hole in the roof. As we sneak in, our unlucky Terminator gets zapped straight into the bedroom. But wait, when he opens his eyes, something overpowering is already getting cooked. The next day, at Dragon Spring Academy, workers chat and one of them mentions that it was lucky and only hit the loser. Turns out that loser is our hero, a martial arts instructor who can't use internal energy. His injury isn't serious, but someone still jokes that it's a shame he didn't get badly hurt, since today is his execution day. That execution is actually a formal duel for the assistant spear instructor position. The match is between our hero and Mang's son, also known as the Invincible Divine Spear. The cocky brute stands confident, expecting our boy to back out because of the lightning strike. But my guy showed no fear, which throws the rage monster off. Meanwhile, our hero begins to recall the public shame of losing his instructor position and enduring years of humiliation. That pain fuels him. He's been waiting for this moment. The freaky guy gets annoyed. He doesn't get what Big Ang is talking about and snaps, asking what kind of nonsense he's spitting. But our boy just smirks and says he's been waiting a long time to face him. That smug attitude ticks the cocky brute off even more. He says he had planned to let Big Ang keep a little pride out of respect for his old instructor role. Fuming, the rage monster fires up the bull demon spear art and yells that it's time to shut our hero up for good. His eyes blaze as he launches a wild bull's charge. But when his spear lands, nothing happens. He freezes in confusion. Our boy taunts him, saying the move looks cool, but has to land to matter. The freaky guy attacks again, this time harder, but our guy dodges with ease. Shocked, the brute thinks there's no way someone who's supposed to be weak can move like that. He tells himself it has to be dumb luck. Still raging, he leaps into the air, going all in. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he unleashes the fourth form of the bull demon spear, aiming to end it right there. But our hero stays calm. As the attack closes in, the bro moves smoothly and quickly, spinning his spear into a tight defense as if he's been training for this his whole life. Big Ang takes his stance with complete confidence. The cocky brute still believes there's no way some basic spear moves can stop his power. Then our boy does something wild. He forms a fireball with his hand and throws it straight at him. Everyone freezes. Even the rage monster is in total shock. He doesn't understand what he just saw, and before he can react, the fireball explodes and sends him flying. The crowd stares in horror as Mang rolls on the ground, screaming and trying to put out the flames on his body. The duel ends right there. Our hero is declared the winner and officially becomes the assistant instructor. Right after, memories hit Big Ang hard. He remembers being captured and dragged into the demon world, where he fights to survive for centuries. That's when he realizes something big, that he just used powerful magic like Heat Yang. This martial art known as Fireball is entirely out of place in the world of magic martial arts. In the present, Mang lies on the ground, burned and barely moving. With a smirk, Ro casually waves for the staff to carry him out, joking about how fun the duel is. The crowd starts whispering, questioning whether what he used is even a legitimate martial art. The officials look totally confused and annoyed, calling the whole thing ridiculous. Still, one of them walks over to congratulate Big Ang but asks how he uses internal energy when everyone knows he can't. Big Ang just smiles and says it's pure luck. He jokes that he found a random herb while walking around. After eating it, he suddenly felt an overwhelming surge of internal energy. The officials aren't amused and take it as mockery. As tension builds, Big Ang says coldly, they can believe him or not. It doesn't matter. He reminds them he didn't cheat. It's a duel for an instructor spot and no rules are preventing him from using other techniques. He acts surprised they're even questioning him after a clean win. One official gets heated, but another steps in and tells him to chill. In the end, they admit his win is valid, even if they still don't get what just happened. Right after the duel ends and Big Ang is declared the winner, an official steps up to give the following instructions. But Big Ang cuts in first. With all eyes on him, he plants his spear into the ground. He formally asks to take the promotion test from assistant to full instructor. Later, he walks through the academy halls while students and assistants stare, whispering and pointing. They're clearly curious, calling him the guy who just crushed the duel. While this Dragon Spring Academy is one of the top martial arts schools run by the Orthodox Alliance, it trains future warriors from respected families and sects. The instructors are divided into assistants and full instructors, with the assistants primarily assisting and teaching the younger students. Our boy enters a room where someone is already waiting for him. The man looks him over and asks what changed and how he suddenly has internal energy. This is Jin Baek, a doctor in the academy who handles treatment. Big Ang gives the same answer as before, it's just dumb luck. However, that really irks the doctor. He reminds our hero how he spent years trying to fix his energy problem and says brushing it off feels like a slap in the face. He looks crushed, asking what the point of all his effort is if it's really that simple. Jin looks broken. He apologizes deeply, saying he always knows how much pain Big Ang goes through because of his condition. That stirred our dude. He realizes Jin has never changed. He's like a father to him. His mind flashes back to 542 years ago, when Jin saves him from a fire during a bandit raid. Back then, Jin died helping others. But this time, our hero swears things will go differently. He grabs Jin's hand and tells him not to blame himself. He promises to protect him and asks him to just believe in him. Later that night, he stares at the sky. A soft blue light glows in his hand as he summons magic. He admits that after returning to the past, he loses over 90% of his old magical power. Right now, the best he can manage is fourth circle magic. Big Ang can't hide his frustration. It takes him centuries to reach 8th circle magic, and now he's stuck at the 4th. Still, he takes a breath and reminds himself to be grateful he has any magic left at all. With fire in his eyes, he tells himself he really made it back from that nightmare timeline. That world is pure hell. He knows history has reset. The demons from Jiang Murim haven't invaded yet, but that yet is the problem. In 10 years, it will all start again, and Jiang Murim will fall just like before. But this time, things will be different. He has 300 years worth of memories, knowledge, and experience. He knows their magic, their tools, their weapons, and most importantly, how to take out the Demon King. Just then, Jin knocks on his door and tells him that the Academy's vice director, Qian, wants to see him. My boy is surprised he sent the message through Jin, but Jin says he doesn't care about that, as he's just worried about him. Jin figures a request is about the promotion test Big Ang asks for. He warns him to be careful. The test is going to be tough, especially since Mang is Qian's pick, and it's obvious he still holds a grudge. Jin then asks why Big Ang suddenly wants to become a full instructor. Our boy just smiles and says it's the first step in fixing the academy. A memory flashes in his mind back when Dragon Spring was one of the top 3 martial arts schools. But 2 years ago, the academy's director, one of the top 10 martial masters, vanished without a trace. They searched for him for years, but find nothing. Since then, the academy's reputation has declined rapidly, mainly because no one can fill his shoes. Big Ang makes his way to the meeting room, and Qian straight up asks if he's actually serious about the promotion test. Deep down, our hero knows Qian is the reason Dragon Spring has fallen so far. Still, he smiles and respectfully says he's totally serious. Our hero remembers the day the demons invade. The academy burns and monsters pour out of huge rifts, tearing through everything. It's total chaos. He is trapped in the middle of it, powerless. He sees the students again, begging for help, but no one comes. The instructors run, leaving them to die. And leading that cowardly retreat is Qian. If he doesn't bail so early, maybe the academy doesn't fall apart. As our boy stands there in silence, the screams of those students echo in his head. And now he faces the same man who abandons them. My guy reminds himself that none of that has happened yet, as he's back in the past now. Still, he swears he'll never forget Qian's fake, disgusting face. With a sarcastic smile, he politely asks what the vice director wants. Qian replies calmly that he's there to explain the details of the promotion test. My boy has to raid the demonic knight stronghold. He asks if he means the group of bandits up on the mountain behind the academy. Qian confirms it. The test is to wipe them out. The stronghold is their base on the old sacred mountain, and they've been causing a lot of trouble for the nearby villages. He takes the signed paper and reads through it. Then he asks what the mission has to do with becoming an instructor. Qian looks annoyed and says it is a basic requirement for anyone who wants to be an official staff member. The other instructor, Buyong, jumps in and explains that official instructors are the academy's real backbone. He mentions their names as Qian, Buyong, Yeonbyuk, and Sang. They are all martial arts elites recognized by the Orthodox Alliance. He proudly adds that they've taken down major enemies like evil sect leaders and bandit lords. Bro literally cuts them off, and while walking off, he flatly asks how long he has. Buyong loses his cool, but Qian answers without hesitation that he has 2 weeks. If he's even a day late, he's disqualified for good. My boy gives a chill smirk. As he walks out of the room, he turns back and says that he'll be back in just 3 days. That ticks off Buyong, who snaps and calls him an arrogant brat. While Qian stays quiet, Buyong presses him, asking if he really plans to promote someone that arrogant. But Qian just gives a smug smile and says not to worry because he's sure that he never makes it back. Meanwhile, our hero shoots out of the academy using a haste spell, moving fast and furious. In his mind, he calls Qian a fake and says he already knows exactly what that guy is plotting. As he rushes off, he starts thinking about the demonic knight stronghold. He remembers it showing up around the time the Green Forest Alliance starts gaining attention, but there isn't much info on it. Back at the academy, the other instructor is shocked by what Qian reveals. He asks if he's being serious. Qian nods with a cold smirk and confirms it. The leader of the stronghold is Gujiam, who is a brutal martial arts master and former head of the sky-shattering sect, an infamous evil group. Qian explains that while most believe Jiam was killed by traitors years ago, he actually survives, hunts down every one of them, and takes brutal revenge. Since then, he has been on the run from several sects and has recently gone into hiding in the area. The other instructor is shocked and asks how Qian even knows all this. Qian just laughs and says it doesn't matter. He goes on to say that while our boy shows surprising strength during the duel, it's clear if he's been hiding his true power. But this mission isn't some sparring match cause it's life or death. Qian is fully convinced our hero isn't coming back. Meanwhile, Bro moves fast toward his target. He thinks about GM's power and knows his current fourth circle magic won't cut it. But then it hits him. The solution is obvious. He speeds toward the stronghold and floats down using a levitation spell. Once he lands at the entrance, he decides to boost his magic power and push himself beyond the fourth circle. His knowledge and experience already match those of an 8th circle level. He casts a search spell and begins scanning the area. From the outside, the place looks like just another cliff. But when Bro touches it, he feels a hidden mana barrier. Smirking, he knows he's in the right spot and no one would ever guess something like this is hidden in the central plains. He steps through the barrier and instantly spots a rare, high-grade mana stone. He mutters that this is the real source of the demon's power. They use stones like this to recharge during their invasions across dimensions. He remembers the flaw in the demon's dimensional travel. Living beings and objects don't move through portals at the same speed, and the demons haven't figured out how to fix that yet. So their workaround is simple as they hide gear and energy sources, like these stones, in the dimensions they plan to hit next. To the people of the Central Plains, the stone is useless. They can't use mana. But the moment our dude lays his hand on it, a massive surge of power bursts out. The ground splits, the air explodes, and the whole area trembles from the blast of energy he just releases. That evening, a group of men rushed over to check out the source of the loud blast. They're members of the demonic knight stronghold, and leading them is Jiam. One of the men quietly asks if something is off, but Jiam snaps, accusing him of doubting his instincts. He orders them to shut up and search the area properly, saying he clearly feels a surge of powerful energy. As they spread out, a slow clap echoes from above. They look up to see our hero sitting casually on a high rock, smirking. He mocks them, saying he figures someone like Akad has to be a top-tier martial master. GM glares up at him and demands to know who he is. Our boy smiles back and answers, "I'm just an instructor from Dragon Spring Academy." The men are confused and on edge, whispering among themselves about why a Dragon Spring Academy instructor is in their stronghold. But Jiyoung shuts them up with a glare. He takes the fighting stance and asks if he is the one behind the energy blast. Bro just smirks and says, "What if he is?" Without warning, Jiyoung charges at him and a massive explosion erupts. The strapped villain yells that he came to kill him anyway, but our hero just mocks him. In the blink of an eye, the sword flashes forward and the villain barely manages to halt it. Our hero casually swings his mana blade, slashing through the air and severing the necks of several of Jiyoung's men. The brutal martial artist isn't even fazed. With a cocky grin, he casts another spell called Trice, which pulls his sword right back into his hand. Then he tells Jiyoung straight up that he came there to kill him. Then comes what we all wait for, the explosive clash. Their fight explodes into a brutal back and forth, both throwing powerful attacks. Our guy mocks him mid-battle and says he should focus on avenging his dead crew. That line pushes Jiyoung over the edge. Furious, Jiyoung screams and demands to know who Big Ang really is. They clash again and now they're backing down. But our guy never loses his cool, smiling confidently as he blocks every strike. He says once more that he is just an instructor from Dragon Spring Academy. Jiyoung starts to feel the exhaustion from the overpowered opponent. He can't wrap his head around how Big Ang is countering him so easily. Worse, it's clear our hero isn't even trying. Boiling with rage, Jiyoung lets out a furious scream and launches a full-force strike, but my boy dodges it like it's nothing, moving fast with smooth precision. Frustrated, Jiyoung activates his trump card called the Heaven-Destroying Divine Arts. He unleashes the core release technique, and his power spikes a dense red aura around. Shaking with anger, he shouts that Big Ang has pushed him too far and will regret everything. Fueled by rage, Jiyoung starts ranting about his tragic past and how betrayal turned him into what he is. He goes on about the pain and hate that drive him. But our bro literally told him to stop crying right in the middle of the fight. This makes the man go nuts. Then without hesitation, our hero calls him a useless villain and drops a high-tier spell called Freeze Wave. Jiyoung is instantly frozen in place, unable to react. And before he can even figure out what's happening, my boy hits him with an astral chain. Out of nowhere, chains climb to his arms, locking him down completely. Jiyoung struggles like crazy to break free, but nothing works. Our hero explains that the spell is built to shut down anyone who uses internal energy, so there's no way his ugly ass is moving. Furious, Jiyoung shouts and asks how Big Ang can even use that kind of magic, and accuses him of being from the demon sect. But Big Ang just shrugs and says it isn't magic, it's mana. Then he laughs and calls him an idiot bandit. Now the villain is freaking out of rage. He screams that Big Ang is cursed. As the chains hold him tight and the end feels close, he mutters how pathetic it is to die in a place like this. Our hero asks if he has any regrets. Jiyoung starts yelling in pain, saying he still hasn't gotten revenge on the ones who betrayed him, the people who turned his followers against him back when he led the heaven-destroying sect. He pours out his anger and says that hiding in these mountains and joining the demonic knight stronghold is all part of his plan for revenge. He tries to go on, but Big Ang cuts him off with slow, sarcastic claps. Grinning, he mockingly praises Jiyoung's obsession with revenge. He tells him that if he really wanted to work, he should have taken his time, stayed patient, and never lost his edge. Jiyoung feels completely disrespected. He snaps and accuses Big Ang of being just some privileged kid who knows nothing about pain or struggle. But then our boy's face shifts. His eyes go dark and his voice drops cold. He asks if Jiyoung really thinks he has lived a comfortable life. That look alone makes Jiyoung freeze. Something is off, deeply off. For the first time, he feels real fear. Then Big Ang speaks again, dead serious. He says it's time for Jiyoung to get a taste of what real suffering feels like, just a glimpse of the hell he has lived through for 200 years. Out of nowhere, Jiyoung finds himself trapped in complete darkness. He has no idea where he is, and panic sets in fast as fear tightens its grip. Then horrifying visions of the future start flashing before his eyes, 10 years from now. Demons swarm the land, tearing everything apart. Bodies burn, relentless combat. Rotting corpses left in twisted labs, mountains of bones. And looming over it all, the crushing presence of the demon king sends shivers racing down his spine. He screams like a madman, completely losing it. Then just like that, he snaps back to reality. Bro just stands over him calmly, like he didn't just drag him through the most depressing emotional roller coaster of all time. He tells him that it's exactly what will happen 10 years from now. Jiyoung collapses and begs our boy to end it and put him out of his misery. Our hero nods slowly, saying he gets the message. Then he raises his hand, ready to finish it. It's tough, he says quietly, but someone has to do it. Back at Driving Spring Academy, Vice Director Chan stands frozen in shock, staring at Jium's massive weapon, lying before him. The mission he thought was impossible, our boy actually pulls it off in savage style. He says he figured they wouldn't believe him if he only brought the sword, so he brought the head too. With a calm and cocky smile, he looks Chan dead in the eyes and says it's time they talk about his new duties as first instructor. By the next morning, the whole academy buzzes. Senior instructor Woonjin explodes in disbelief. He shouts that this has to be a joke. How can the guy who was once the academy's embarrassment suddenly become a first instructor? Meanwhile, the archery instructor asks if Bigang really raids the demonic night stronghold by himself. Wooyoung steps in and says he personally goes to the sacred mountain to check it out. He confirms he finds the bodies, including Jium's, exactly where Bigang says they'd be. But even as he explains that bodies look sliced under a single slash, the whole room goes quiet, stunned by the insane precision and what it means. At that point, the instructors get into a heated argument, questioning Bigang's skills. They say he's a spear instructor, not a sword expert, so none of it makes sense. But Chan quickly shuts them up and asks what they're even arguing about. The instructors backed off and apologized right away. While they quiet down, Chan sits there lost in thought. Deep down, he can't accept that Bigang takes down Jium and his men alone. He has met Jium before and knows just how powerful he is. The idea that Bigang beats him so easily doesn't sit right with me. For a moment, he thinks maybe Jin, the academy's doctor, will help him out, but he shakes off the thought as Jin doesn't have that kind of strength. Still suspicious, Chan decides to dig deeper. He turns to the instructor and tells him to get in touch with the Ghost Shadow, which is one of the biggest assassin groups in the Mirim world, known for taking any job if the price is right. Kevin tells instructor Jung to send a request to the Ghost Shadow Palace to dig up everything on Bigang, which catches the other instructors off guard. Then he hands a list to the senior instructor. When Yu asks what it is, the vice director just tells him he has a plan. Yu glances at the paper and looks super confused at first, but once he gets it, his eyes go wide. He's clearly impressed and says the plan is genius. Chan smirks and says he's just putting his position to good use. Yu laughs, saying Bigang might quit before the Ghost Shadow Palace even sends anything back, and Chan agrees, saying that's likely since the guy is still green. One of the instructors asks instructor Dong if he has already given that same list to Bigang. Dong says yeah, and when asked how Bigang reacts, he says the guy just gives a small smile and says, "Got it." As our dude walks off, he laughs, calling the old instructors clowns for doing exactly what he expects. He reminds himself there's a reason he comes back to this exact time and place. Thinking about the power he gets from Nuzurun and the ability to rewind time, he keeps asking himself one thing, like how does he prepare for the demon invasion? He knows he can't take on an army that destroys entire dimensions alone. Even with his skills, there are limits to what he can achieve. So he decides to build a real army, not weaklings like before, but elite martial and magic users. He looks at the first-year students labeled as problem kids. Some have talent but bad attitudes. Others lack flashy skills or noble names. But Bigang sees potential and chooses to start with them. Our guy is sure the senior instructors give him these students, thinking he'll fail to manage them. But they have no clue who they really are. He remembers two legends from the era of the demon invasion. One becomes the Sword Master who leads the Heavenly Sword Alliance and fronts Mirim's resistance. The other is a crazy skilled archer who leads an elite squad and racks up the highest demon kill count solo. As our hero looks at the so-called rejects in front of him, he smirks. He knows those two future legends are standing right there, clueless about the monsters they're going to become. The scene shifts to this cocky brat Boak laying into some poor kid named Lijung, who's the eldest son of the one-star sword clan. So hard that he ends up on his knees, coughing. Lijung's begging Boak to stop, but Boak thinks the kid should be grateful he's getting a lesson in fist fighting, even though Lijung is all about sword skills. Boak laughs at him, saying those pathetic martial arts wouldn't even work on him. That gets Lijung riled up, but Boak just tells him to relax his fists and asks if they should duel again. Lijung brushes off the idea of fighting back right now. Just then, someone pipes up, telling Boak to knock it off since the exam is about to start. Wookyeon from the destructive Sword Clan steps in, but Boak dismisses him, saying Lijung should count himself lucky. Wookyeon turns to leave, and Lijung thanks him for stepping in. Out of nowhere, another person calls out to the three of them, saying the vice president announced they won't be in the Camellia class anymore. Instead, they're being moved to this new class, totally catching them off guard. Now they're standing in front of our guy, who says he's gonna be their instructor from now on. Everyone's left wondering what's going on. Then Boak storms in really fired up, telling them to cut the nonsense. He's mad that they've been shuffled into a new class when they're already under an instructor who barely has them assessed. He's shouting at our guy, asking if he really thinks anyone's gonna take him seriously. Big Yang steps up to confront him, pointing out that using that kind of language with the head instructor is pretty disrespectful. Book's not holding back at all, firing off insults and wondering how the heck he managed to become an instructor. He just keeps running his mouth while secretly casting a magic spell behind the scenes. Bringing up Article 3, Clause 5 from the Academy, he pulls off a blink spell. Book is caught off guard, and our guy takes the chance to knock him back hard, making him scream in pain. He's all about the punishment thing, saying that if a cadet misbehaves, they deserve it. Clenching his fists, Book goes for a massive punch with his mountain-splitting move, but our guy just dodges like it's nothing. He calls him out for using internal arts during class without permission, and then suddenly nails Book right in the chest, leaving him in serious pain. The worst part, Book's got weak martial arts skills, so our guy shows him how it's done, smashing him down like he's just a kid. Then he tells him to get back up because the lesson isn't over yet. Poor Lijun can't believe what he's witnessing. He thinks Boluk is the top-ranked new student and he's acting like a total kid by losing it. Boluk tries to get back up, shaking, but our guy just keeps smashing his face in. The other students are sweating bullets as he crawls away, and our guy can't believe they're starting their first class like this. He thinks it's pretty messed up and seems ready to throw a punch, saying it's the instructor's job to keep their cool and teach. Just as poor Boluk is about to get hit, someone grabs our guy's hand and stops him. It's Wookyoung, who points out that going this hard on a cadet is a bit much. Our guy asks if this is when Wookyoung finally decides to step in. Wookyoung is actually the leader of the Heavenly Sword Alliance before everything changes. He's a first-year student in the Camellia class and the second son of the Destructive Sword clan, which is one of the top clans around. From a young age, everyone knew he was a martial arts prodigy with incredible skills. His talent was way beyond what the Academy could handle, and he made history by becoming the youngest ever to hit the Supreme Peak Martial Master rank. He even snagged a spot among the top 10 martial artists. He was supposed to have an awesome life, but everything changed when the demons showed up. At first, he fought in more battles than anyone else during the demon invasion. But soon enough, his clan became the main target of the demons, and they ended up getting wiped out, leaving him as the only survivor. Instead of letting the sorrow get to him like many others, he hit the road across the Central Plains, taking on tons of battles against the demons and gathering survivors from even the most random groups along the way. Even though the odds were stacked against him and the situation looked pretty grim, he rallied the last of the martial artists for one final stand. He was always the first to charge into battle, and when he unleashed his flashy sword skills, the demonic beasts in the sky would be taken down in a heartbeat. No doubt, he became the hero and last hope of the Central Plains, but nowadays people just see him as another arrogant noble from a well-off clan. Our guy thinks it's pretty funny that Wookyoung might finally be getting serious. Wookyoung notices that this guy seems to have gotten a lot stronger out of nowhere, which totally surprises him. He's not too thrilled about the idea that this strength is just a flashy show or something that happened because of fate. Raising an eyebrow, our guy asks Wookyoung why he seems so interested. He jokingly adds that if Wookyoung sticks to his training from now on, he might just think about sharing some of his secrets. Wookyoung just shrugs it off, acting like he has no clue how our guy managed to switch classes all of a sudden. He decides to file a formal complaint, saying he doesn't want to learn from someone who's so full of themselves. With that, some of the minions, along with Woyan, head out, while the rest just watch them leave. Lijiang is sweating bullets over the whole scene, and our guy can't help but laugh. He tells Wookyoung that he's just talking a big game, like he's something special. Our guy gives Lijiang a comforting pat on the shoulder and tells Wookyoung that after just 10 days of training, Lijiang could be strong enough to take him on. This totally freaks Lijiang out. Wookyoung, clearly angry, asks if he really heard that right. Our guy repeats that in just a week of training, Lijiang could actually go up against someone like Wookyoung, who he calls just a frog stuck in a well. Lijiang, confused, asks what's going on and if our guy has lost his mind, but he suddenly goes quiet. Wookyoung shoots a look back, his eyes blazing with anger, and questions if our guy is seriously ready to back up those words. Our guy confidently says that in 10 days he's going to face off against Lijiang in an official match. If Wookyoung loses, he'll have to train with our guy without complaining. If the poor kid ends up losing, our boy will kneel, apologize, or even beg. Wookyoung can pretty much do whatever in that moment. He'll be funny to him, and he'll just brush it off, saying he doesn't need anything from him. But he does throw in a reminder for our guy to be ready for the match coming up in a week. As they're heading out, Lijiang starts panicking. Our guy tries to chill him out, but it doesn't do anything, and Lijiang freaks out again. He keeps asking what he did to end up like this. So our guy just gives him the finger and says today's class is off, promising to send the schedule for the next one by tomorrow. Meanwhile, poor Lijiang is on the ground, crying like a baby. Our guy tries to comfort him, saying he just wants to win and wonders why Lijiang thinks he's going to lose. Lijun explains that during his first public spar after joining, he got wrecked by Boak, and it was bad. Since then, Boak's been on his case every single day. Plus, he adds that Boak couldn't even touch Wookyoung. Our boy realizes that Wookyoung is really something special. He points out that even though he's sticking to the plan, Lijun has some seriously unique martial arts skills. With a big grin, he tells Lijun not to sweat it, saying he's actually stronger than Boak. Lijun is totally shocked to hear this. Back before his regression, he was a demon-slaying divine archer. Lijun is terrified. He doesn't understand why he's the one chosen to face Wookyoung in public. But our guy tells him that if the kid wins, it will prove his skills as an instructor. Lijun keeps complaining, asking what he would gain from this. Our guy just grins and says it's all about revenge. Lijun freezes for a moment. He throws a sarcastic jab, questioning whether our guy is the same one who used to get beaten up by Boak. But he mentions how Lijun felt when he recently defeated Boak. He asks if it was exhilarating or perhaps frustrating, since Lijun wasn't able to get that revenge himself. With a grin, our guy suggests that if Lijun gets strong enough to beat Wookyoung, getting back at Boak would be easy too. He calls it the perfect gift. Lijun looks uncertain and wonders if it's even possible for him to get that strong. Our guy reassures him. Totally hyped up, Lijun shouts that he definitely. A strange smile spreads across our guy's face as he says he'll be watching to see if he is truly committed. Lijun jumps into training right away. He shows up at the training ground, facing a training dummy. Our guy watches from a distance. He believes it's time to evaluate Lijun's skill level and tells to imagine Wookyoung standing in front of him. He instructs him to use all his martial arts. Lijun takes a deep breath and then charges in straight toward the practicing dummy. Lijun attacks swiftly and then he hits the dummy hard over and over again. He seems totally pumped up. However, he starts sweating after a while. Our guy encourages him to keep going and push himself even harder. With a scream, the kid rushes forward with all his might, but a sudden pain hits him hard. He stumbles and crashes heavily to the ground. He becomes exhausted as he coughs violently. Our guy watches quietly without saying a word. He hits him with pathetic, which off-guards Lijun. Our guy asks Lijun if he even knows what's wrong with him. Lijun admitting that his energy always keeps dispersing. He's suspecting his clan's techniques is incorrectly, but his basic forms seem fine. He even got tested if his meridians might have issue, and nothing was found. As a result, he started to worry that he might be suffering from an unknown illness, but our guy assures him that none of that is true. He explains that Lijun's meridian points are simply more spread out than normal. Lijun looks confused, unsure of what that means. Our guy elaborates, his meridians are too wide. Normally, that would be advantageous, but since Lijun is still young and lacks sufficient internal energy, it's a drawback. He breaks it down. Martial artists channel energy from the danshin into the meridians. In Lijun's case, the energy spreads too widely and doesn't focus properly. As a result, during combat, it scatters everywhere instead of remaining controlled. Lijun is shocked. He has never heard of this issue before. Our boy steps in and recalls memories of the past, envisioning himself on a battlefield surrounded by fallen bodies, injured and barely holding on. In that memory, he sees Lijun, but he looks different, cloaked and with his face hidden behind a mask. He remembers how he discovered this information by coincidence. Back in the present, Lijun kneels in front of him, eager to learn. He senses something strange in the atmosphere and begins to wonder if there is more to this person. He approaches Lijun and mentions that they have identified the problem. Now they just need to find a solution. Lijun didn't expect them to have an answer. Our guy explains that the solution is simple. If Lijun increases his internal energy, the wide meridians will no longer be a problem. However, this is easier said than done, as building up energy takes time. For now, he says there is only one thing he can teach Lijun. He instructs Lijun to gather internal energy before each movement. By stacking enough energy beforehand, Lijun will be able to control it better during combat. Lijun follows the advice, powering up and rushing toward the dummy. His energy flows perfectly, and he delivers a powerful strike that breaks the dummy in one blow. Lijun lights up with joy, feeling as if he has finally succeeded. Our guy watches with pride as Lijun runs over, bursting with excitement. He exclaims that his energy didn't scatter this time. Our guy nods, acknowledging that he witnessed the entire event and he did great. Yet just after that, Lijun loses his balance and falls hard. Lijun slowly comes to, coughing and trying to figure out what just happened. Our guy checks in on him, and Lijun admits he's completely wiped out. He gets reassured that this tiredness is normal since it's his first time using his meridian points. His body isn't used to this energy flow, but the side effects will wear off in a few months. Out of nowhere, Lijun remembers that the duel with Wookyoung is only a week away, and he looks totally shocked. In the next scene, he's back to training. Our guy points out that Lijun has two big issues to tackle. Lijun tunes in. Our guy breaks it down. Li Jung is pushing all of his energy into one big hit, which makes him crash afterward. Plus, he has a small energy core that can't handle a lot for long. If he keeps at it, he might end up with serious energy problems. Our guy checks if Li Jung gets it, and Li Jung confidently says he does. Then our guy picks up his weapon, and Li Jung gets a bit nervous about what's next. Our guy tells him to start thinking about his plan for the duel with Wookyoung. He asks how long it takes for Li Jung to gather his energy, and Li Jung says about 7 minutes. Our guy raises an eyebrow and questions how Li Jung plans to survive that long against Wookyoung. Feeling anxious, Li Jung asks for advice. Our guy tells him his only shot is to dodge everything until he can gather enough energy. Out of nowhere, our guy goes for a surprise attack. Li Jung panics and scrambles to get out of the way, confused about why it feels like a real fight. Our guy shouts at him to focus, gather his energy, and never take his eyes off the weapon. Our guy pulls off this illusion trick that totally throws Li Jung off. He doesn't see what's coming next at all. In a flash, our guy breaks through Li Jung's defense and lands a solid hit, sending him crashing to the ground. Li Jung feels pain surge through him, and he yells out from the hit. Our guy just calmly tells him that it didn't even involve any internal energy. He tells Li Jung to get up, and Li Jung can't believe this is actually training. Our guy confirms it's all about evasion training. Li Jung's a bit confused, but our guy reassures him he's not messing around. He's there to help him work on his weaknesses, explaining what's wrong and showing him how to fix it. Our guy thinks this is the only way Li Jung stands a chance against Wookyoung in the duel. He knows it's tough, but he questions if it's really worse than the bullying from Boak and Wookyoung. Then he asks Li Jung if he's really going to throw away this chance to show everyone he can do better. Li Jung thinks about Wookyoung's face, clears his head, and grips his weapon tight. He apologizes for hesitating and claims he's ready to train all day. But then our guy hits him with a surprise. This training is going to last non-stop for the entire week. Li Jung freaks out and wants to back off, shocked by how intense it is. Our guy comes charging at him with energy. Li Jung begs for a break, but instead he takes another hard hit and screams out in pain on the field. A week flies by and the big duel at Dragon Spring Academy is finally here. The arena is packed with pumped-up students and teachers. Wookyoung walks in looking super chill and confident, weapon at the ready. On the flip side, Li Jung stumbles in all bruised and tense after a brutal week of training. The crowd is buzzing, gossiping about how long Li Jung can hold up in this fight. He looks way too beaten down to even compete, and someone cracks a joke that he'll go down with just one hit. Another one raises an eyebrow at his weird training sessions from earlier in the week. Li Jung took a serious beating from his instructor all week long, looking half dead by the time it was over. Boak, watching from the sidelines, laughs and throws shade at Li Jung for putting his trust in our guy, convinced he's heading for a disaster. Boak thinks Li Jung has really messed up, digging his own grave. Then Wookyoung steps up to our guy and makes a bold offer. If he loses, he'll pack up and leave the academy. He's done wasting time. Our guy, unfazed, agrees and reminds Wookyoung that if he loses, they'll have to go to every training session without complaining. He urges Wookyoung to stop stressing about him and focus on Li Jung in the arena. With that, Li Jung gets ready to fight as Wookyoung locks eyes with him. Our guy claps to kick off the duel and lays down the rules. The win comes from knocking someone out, forcing them to surrender or disarming them. No lethal moves allowed, our guy is the judge. As the duel kicks off, the tension is palpable while Li Jung and Wookyoung step into a fight that could change everything. Li Jung gets ready for the fight, really trying to focus. As the duel kicks off, landing a solid hit on his arm that leaves Li Jung pretty shocked. For a second, Li Jung starts to doubt himself when a blow knocks his weapon away, making him think about giving up. But then he realizes his arm is actually fine, the injury was just an illusion. Wookyoung looks at Li Jung with disdain, making fun of him for trying to take on someone stronger. Li Jung shakes a bit from Wookyoung's intense presence, understanding that if Wookyoung really wanted to hurt him, he could have done it easily. Doubt creeps in as Li Jung questions whether he's ready to face Wookyoung after only a week of training. Fortunately, his friend our guy steps in with a calm voice, reminding Li Jung how important this duel is. Our guy stands confident, giving off a strong vibe that lifts Li Jung's spirits. Li Jung laughs nervously and refocuses on why he's fighting, his promise to get stronger. That thought keeps him grounded as he remembers his commitment to change. Wookyoung sees Li Jung as foolish for not backing down and gets ready to finish the duel quickly. Charging in with a wild, powerful attack, he blames Li Jung for putting himself in this situation. Their weapons clash loudly, sending sparks flying, and it's clear this fight won't be over easily. Wookyoung is taken aback as Li Jung reacts quickly. Their weapons clash again, making a loud noise, and Li Jung feels the danger but quickly regains his balance. He realizes the energy he built up is starting to fade under the pressure. Wookyoung unleashes the first move of the sky-shattering Heavenly Dragon's sword, called the Raging Dragon's Wrathful Current. The immense power shocks Lee Jung and fills him with fear as he feels the energy building. But amidst all that pressure, Lee Jung finds the attacks a little less scary than before, catching the attention of some students who notice his improvement. Wookyoung realizes that Lee Jung has actually learned something in just a week. Wookyoung keeps pressing on, getting ready for his big move, the Twin Dragon's Fang Slash. He charges in, leaving Lee Jung stunned as he recognizes the powerful technique from those tough training sessions they had with their mentor. When the attack hits, the ground shakes, sending a shockwave through the area. But Lee Jung quickly leaps up, dodging it with surprising agility. Wookyoung is taken aback. He really didn't expect Lee Jung to avoid it so easily. Lee Jung lands on his feet, gasping for breath. He's worn out, but his eyes are focused. He's not backing down. Wookyoung launches into a flurry of rapid strikes. Lee Jung struggles to keep dodging, feeling the weight of Wookyoung's skill from the devastating Sword Clan. He reminds himself to hang in there a little longer. Wookyoung keeps pushing forward, swinging with skill and speed, but doubt starts creeping in. Why hasn't he knocked Lee Jung down yet? He wonders if he's missed something. Then it hits him. Lee Jung is using the same sword style that Sabe drilled into him during that brutal week of training. Suddenly, Lee Jung changes his movement, catching Wookyoung off guard. He has to rethink his approach to Lee Jung. Wookyoung stomps his foot down, bracing for what's next. The tension between them spikes and they get locked in a fierce back and forth. The students watching are shocked. When Wookyoung takes a step back, everyone is surprised. Whispers start spreading through the crowd. Some think it's just a trick, while others are unsure. One student points out that Wookyoung wouldn't fake it. Whatever is going down is for real. Wookyoung stands his ground, determination in his eyes as he tightens his grip on his weapon. Then, to everyone's surprise, he apologizes to Lee Jung for calling him a fool, acknowledging how much he's grown, showing some real respect for his progress. He admits he has no clue how Lee Jung picked up the sky-shattering Heavenly Dragon's sword technique, but he's ready to use it again, this time even more powerful. Lee Jung is momentarily frozen, shocked by the name of the technique. Wookyoung kicks off the Raging Dragon's annihilation. A wave of swords and energy comes barreling toward Lee Jung, and Wookyoung claims that if Lee Jung dodges this one, he'll admit he's lost. The crowd goes quiet. The move is seriously terrifying. Students gasp, wondering if anyone could survive such a thing. Bok watches in amazement, fully aware of the danger Wookyoung is unleashing. Lee Jung steps back, taking in the destructive wave and Wookyoung's unusual side movement, trying to figure out what he's really up to. In a flashback to the night before the duel, Lee Jung sweats bullets after being thoroughly drilled by Big Ang. Eventually, Big Ang tells him he's been able to learn how to dodge his attacks well, which means he may have a chance in the duel. Uncertain, Lee Jung asks him if all this training will really help him dodge Wookyoung's attacks, so Big Ang tells him that it won't. Lee Jung screams in shock, so our MC explains to him that Wookyoung isn't an idiot. Even though Wookyoung underestimates his opponent, he will switch to using countermeasures if Lee Jung is actually able to keep dodging his strikes. Big Ang adds that Wookyoung would use a secret technique if, for some reason, Lee Jung is able to survive till the end. Apparently, this is the biggest scale sword art that Wookyoung can use currently, and it's known as the Fierce Dragon Annihilation. The technique makes it seem as if a fierce dragon has appeared, and it's an art that creates a massive sword kai. To prepare him ahead, our hero tells him that he can forget about trying to dodge it because he can't. No matter how much he tries to jump or move back, the sword will immediately grow until it swallows the entire stadium. Surprised, Lee Jung believes is unbeatable and asks if there's a way around it. However, Big Ang teaches him that there is nothing that is truly unbeatable in this world. Apparently, the storm that the sword ki creates forms a strong whirlpool that flows in all directions. Even though it looks like it's targeting all directions, there's a loophole to it. Our hero explains that the Fierce Dragon Annihilation technique is a mighty martial art created to destroy the majority of the enemy who are trying to run away. Immediately, Lee Jung catches his drift, and our hero smiles at him. The one way out against this method is to keep moving forward. In the present, Lee Jung continues to move forward into the whirlpool even though the energy being released is slashing his body. This comes as a shock to Wookyoung, who had expected him to retreat. Oddly, Big Ang had previously informed Lee Jung that Wookyoung would immediately try to respond when he realizes that Lee Jung is able to see through his technique. Just like our MC had said, Wookyoung lowers his sword towards Lee Jung to react to his approach. However, he doesn't know Lee Jung was expecting this because Big Ang had told him to use Wookyoung's reaction of surprise as a moment to attack the arrogant bastard. When Wookyoung attacks, Lee Jung dodges his attack and finds an opening to land a blow. He lands the blow with all the anger that he's covered up for so long, just like his instructor told him. As Lee Jung comes in for the kill, Wookyoung is scared out of his mind. He quickly moves his sword to block Lee Jung's attack, and the swords collide, causing Wook-young's wooden sword to shatter into pieces. The duel finally ends, and Big Ang comes to help his student off the platform because he's pretty exhausted and has sustained some injuries. As he helps him walk inside, Big Ang asks him how it feels as the crowd celebrates Lee Jung's success. While they celebrate, some are simply stunned, while Book looks like he's going to explode due to anger. Big Ang asks Lee Jung if he doesn't think all of this is exhilarating, and for a moment, Lee Jung can't say anything as he watches the crowd cheer him on. Later on, the smile breaks out on his face and he agrees with his trainer. Sometime later, class resumes and Big Ang steps in to meet his students. The students pay attention and Lee Jung seems as excited as usual, but Wook-young doesn't seem to be pleased with the entire situation. However, Big Ang doesn't give a crap and is pleased with how things went, so he decides to start the first class. Meanwhile, Vice Director Chian experiences some frustration in his office. He's angry at the students who are now solidly behind Big Ang and wonders why they suddenly changed their minds about him. He wonders how things have suddenly gone wrong, and he realizes the other teachers are going to be hard on him because they trusted him to handle things. Soon after, Instructor Yu speaks up and points out Chian had made his move upon the premise that it'd get Big Ang to leave the academy on his own. While Chian struggles to bring up an explanation, Yu points out that the cadets are all following Big Ang willingly now and asks what's going on. Yu points out that Lee Jung and Wook-young are now behind our hero and they've insisted on training under him. Eventually, Instructor Gun asks if they can't just force the cadets to switch classes like they did the last time, but Yu points out that the cadets have gone as far as threatening to withdraw from the academy and report to the Young clan if they do that. Some of the other instructors lament that they shouldn't have entrusted a genius like Wook-young into the hands of a new and inexperienced teacher. They all continue to complain, and Chian realizes that he'd have to take responsibility for all this mess. Annoyed, he accuses the instructors of trying to pin all this on him, especially since they're also parasites that are desperate to get favor from the Yun clan. Eventually, he asks them if they seriously mean that Yun Wook-young lost to some bottom-rank, one-star sword punk, so he's told that Wook-young withdrew. Even though Wook-young withdrew, the cadets who watched the fight considered it a loss. Regardless, Chian doesn't believe them because Wook-young is one of the greatest prodigies among the Yun clan. Chian realizes that he seems to understand less about Big Ang the more he learns about him, and he decides they need to investigate him further. Suddenly, he recalls the request they made to the Ghost Shadow Manor and asks if they've heard from them. He soon learns that they haven't replied, and it annoys him that a mere mercenary group would act so proudly against them. Suddenly, a member of the Ghost Shadow Manor appears behind Chian and warns him to be careful with his words and actions. The instructors turn around in shock and ask the person who he is, but the man only responds that that's a foolish question. Meanwhile, Chian is shocked and he doesn't understand what's going on. He's a peak martial master and can't believe that he didn't sense when this person entered the room. Eventually, the man from the Ghost Shadow Manor explains that they're here to fulfill the request. They seem to have come as a group, and their leader asks Chian to tell him more about Big Ang. Also, the Ghost Shadow Manor is the most elite mercenary group in the Jianghu. Later on, the #1 Ghost Shadow in the entire manor receives a drawing of Big Ang, and he wonders why these people are offering money that's as high as 100 Niangs just to investigate a rookie instructor. The 5th-ranking Ghost Shadow points out that the academy seems to be swimming in money even though they have a terrible reputation. The #1 agrees that they're probably doing corrupt deals but clarifies that it's none of their business. The 3rd person, who's the #7 in the Ghost Shadow ranking, finds it funny that such orthodox sects always pretend to be virtuous, but always put their hands into secret things. That makes #5 laugh, but he doesn't feel they're any better since they're scavenging for money off these pathetic requests. Suddenly, #1 asks his 5th-in-command if he's forgotten his mission. He reminds him that until they find the person they're looking for, they've vowed to endure even the lowest tasks. Shocked, the #5 pleads for mercy because he spoke wrongly. #1 doesn't make a fuss out of it, but simply tells them to focus on the mission. When the 7th in rank asks if they should also look into Dr. Jin Baek, who had raised Big Ang from childhood, the #1 tells them to just focus on Big Ang for now. Furthermore, the 7th in rank asks him if he believes the rumor that Big Ang had an encounter of fate is true. The #1 considers such things as nonsense, but the 7th in rank reminds him that they say Big Ang couldn't use any inner energy at all until he just became a martial master overnight. He believes that this must have been because he had a fated encounter, but #5 speculates that Big Ang may have had some hidden people backing him. He also mentions that Big Ang may have infiltrated this place after being planted by some hostile group with a terrible plan. #1 agrees that the client must have hired them because they suspected these things and the target may be more dangerous than they know. He cautions them to not let the target detect that they're watching him and to be cautious. However, these guys think their captain must be joking because no one, no matter how strong, can detect the stealth techniques of the ghost Shadow Manor. Sometime later, Bigang meets with Jin Bake. Jin informs him that he's been hearing several things about him in the academy recently, many of which surprise him. He asks our hero if he'd be alright because it seems that people at the academy are starting to go against him. However, Bigang assures him that there's nothing to worry about because the hero's way is always laced with jealousy and envy. This intrigues Jin, and he agrees that Bigang's fated encounter must be really great to have changed him so much. Jin recalls that all of this started with the duel that our hero fought against the Spear Master and admits that he was shocked. He knows that it would have ended as a disaster if Bigang had lost the duel, especially since the vice director was planning to get rid of him. Bigang listens intently and he recalls that he actually got kicked out of the academy. In his past life, he was sorely defeated by Mang because he couldn't use magic. They took away his position as assistant instructor and gave him a menial labor job. Eventually, he was forced to run away from the academy because he couldn't endure the mockery. After that, he went around without direction for a while, without any way to make money. Eventually, he had to work as an escort warrior in an escort agency. Although he couldn't use inner energy, he gave the training all he had and improved his fighting. Luckily, he survived many dangerous escort missions and attacks from unorthodox sects and bandits. After a few years, he managed to become the first-rank escort warrior. Our guy continued to do that for 10 years, and he built a very wide connection of contacts and information. One day, he decided to visit the Dragon Spring Academy to see his dear friend Jin, and that was the night that the world was invaded. In the present, Bigang hisses and throws a stone into a nearby bush. Surprised, Jin asks him why he suddenly threw a rock away, so Bigang replies that he saw an ugly frog and was trying to chase it away. That amuses Jin, and he asks him why he wouldn't harm a poor frog. They soon begin walking away, and our hero humorously reminds Jin how he fed him frogs as medicine when he was little. After they walk away, the guys from the Ghost Shadow Manor, who were watching them, spring out from behind the bush, Bigang targeted with his rock. Number 7 groans in pain, and number 3 realizes he has sustained a black eye from the rock our hero threw at him. Number 7 is shaken and he wonders if their cover has been blown, but number 5 believes he just made a lucky shot because he wouldn't have walked away if he had truly spotted them. Annoyed, number 5 asks 7 if he's at all doubting the Ghost Shadow Manor's cultivation techniques over something so minute. Number 7 is forced to apologize for his mistake, so his superior reminds him to have more confidence in his skills. Eventually, they decide to continue their surveillance. Bigang heads back to his quarters and he considers how he's been able to become an instructor to Sun Dan, Dan Lejung, and Yan Wokyung. He's glad that he's been able to achieve his first goal, and he considers that it may bring some lady in. According to his memory of his past life, the lady he's speaking about should be close. Suddenly, someone walks into the room and our hero welcomes him while sitting on a chair. Wokyung, who had just entered the room, wonders if Bigang was expecting him, but our hero just points out that he knows he'd be getting restless by now. Annoyed, Wokyung asks his instructor what the disgusting expression on his face is all about. Still amused, Bigang asks Wokyung what brings the young master of the destructive Sword Young clan to such a humble place. After hesitating for a while, Wokyung mentions the duel he had with Lejung and how Lejung was able to sloppily respond to all his basic moves of the Supreme Dragon Heaven-Severing Sword. He confesses that he at first thought Lejung could do this because he was trained for 1 week, but he soon realizes there was more to it. To him, it seemed as if Lejung knew all the movements and paths of his sword technique. Bigang smiles at him, so Wokyung points out that he must have been the one who taught him the sword path of the destructive sword technique, which is unique to the Young clan. Annoyed, Wokyung asks him how an outsider like himself can learn their clan's martial art with so much detail. Eventually, our hero answers him vaguely. Bigang points out that the destructive sword art of the Yan clan, which is considered the best clan in Zhangyuan, is very famous among martial artists. However, Wokyung tells him to stop messing around because what he saw was something more than random knowledge. He tells Bigang that he was able to distinguish that, and our hero admits that he would have been disappointed if he couldn't. When Wokyung tries to caution him to stop changing topics, Bigang tells him to stop. He finally stands up and tells Wokyung to be more straightforward if he wants to be his disciple. Wokyung acts surprised, but our hero points out that he knows the true reason he came here was to find out if Bigang also knew the flaws of the Supreme Heaven-Severing Sword, just like he knows them. Bigang explains that the sword technique was perfected hundreds of years ago, and it's been passed down through the clan. This technique is praised as the strongest sword art in Zhangyuan because it has high power of destruction and no gaps. However, our hero knows that Bigang realized something since he was young and been training with the sword. He knows Wokyung has realized that the Supreme Dragon Heaven-Severing Sword is not an unbeatable martial art. Although he points out that Wokyung has not been able to publicly admit this because he's the heir of the clan. Annoyed, Wokyung asks him if he's attempting to condescend to his clan, but Big Ang tells him to believe whatever he wants. However, he points out to Wookyoung that there's going to come a time in the near future where all the honor and reputation the martial artist regards so much will be meaningless. That surprises Wookyoung, so Big Ang tells him the only thing he should be thinking about is a way to get stronger than he is. He advises him to take away anything that will distract him from that. Wookyoung remains speechless, so our hero turns away and proposes they talk more about this later. For now, he advises Wookyoung to follow his instincts. For a moment, Wookyoung just looks at him, but he asks why Big Ang is suddenly grabbing a wooden pillow. Wookyoung is indeed grabbing on, but he laughs and explains that there's an annoying frog outside. Later that night, the ghost shadows watch the academy from a high place. They all watch Master Jin Baek, who's a medic who worked in a place called Gamsu. 5 years ago, Master Jin was put in charge of the Recovering Body Pavilion, a route that treats patients in the Dragon Spring Academy. Number 5 continues his report and explains that Jin has barely learned martial arts and doesn't have such a background. They've been investigating him since he's the closest person to Big Ang, but all they can find is that he's just a medic. Oddly, Number 5 suspects that Jin's perfectly clean past is made up. Suddenly, he notices Number 7's black eye and a bandage around his head, so he asks him what happened to him. Unsure of what to say, Number 5 recounts how Big Ang hit 7 with a stone in the eye and later dropped a wooden pillow on his head. At another time, Big Ang even dropped a huge stone on his back. Confused, Number 1 asks them if they're sure their cover was not blown, so Number 5 points out that the target didn't seem to be cautious of them. However, Number 7 insists that his wounds are a testament to the fact that they were discovered. Annoyed, Number 1 warns 7 not to doubt his clan's techniques, and he speculates that Big Ang must just have a nasty habit of throwing things out. He advises 7 to endure a bit more since he's seen worse, and the poor guy realizes he's cooked. The next day, 7 tells his senior that he won't hold back the next time something comes flying at him. He promises to behead Big Ang if he does it again, so his senior tries to calm him down. Number 5 assures him that they aren't hiding close to the accommodation anymore, so these mishaps won't keep happening. They're currently stationed quite far from the house, but Number 7 points out that the crazy bastard can just wake up and decide to practice archery today. While they're talking, our hero suddenly appears, so they go into stealth mode to hide themselves. This time, Big Ang walks to the bush they're hiding in and mentions how he needs to pee so badly. He mentions that it must be because of the tea he drank, and Number 7 can't believe his eyes. He's forced to stand still as Big Ang pees all over his head, and his senior doesn't even know what to say to the poor guy. Annoyed, Number 7 leaps out of the bush and calls Big Ang a crazy bastard, demanding to know what on earth he's doing. 7 isn't prepared for what he sees next, because he soon realizes that Big Ang had been pouring out tea from a kettle. Excited to see him, our guy asks him if he wants a cup, and 7 just stares at him incredulously. When he comes back to his senses, he calls Big Ang a bastard for purposefully doing all this to him after detecting them. Eventually, 7 ejects a knife out of his hands and leaps towards him, bent on taking his life. However, his attack is stopped by a barrier and Big Ang doesn't even move out of the way. Our hero just smiles at him, grabs his face through the barrier, and smashes his head on the ground. As the blood spills out, Big Ang smiles like a maniac and tells the folk from the Ghost Shadow Manor that it's nice to meet them. As if what had happened to him before was not terrible enough, Number 7 ends up with his head in the ground. Shocked, Number 5 steps out to check on his comrade. However, Big Ang tells 7 this is what he gets for snooping into other people's business. Eventually, he laughs and calls them his dear friends of the Ghost Shadow Manor. Annoyed, 5 unsheathes his sword to eliminate him, but Number 1 suddenly appears and tells Number 5 to stand down. Number 1 greets Big Ang and finds it interesting that he's already discovered them, so our hero points out that Number 1 must be the leader of these frogs. With a smirk, Big Ang asks him if it's okay to reveal their identity to the person they're tailing, but Number 1 tells him that's a foolish question. Immediately, Number 1 brings out his sword and decides to take out Big Ang right there. Our guy just laughs and asks them if they aren't curious to know about them, but Number 1 assures him he'll find out soon. His plan is to slice off each of Big Ang's limbs, so he flies in for an attack. Number 1 throws several daggers at Big Ang, but our guy simply creates a mana blade that he uses to destroy them all. Immediately, Number 1 appears behind him and prepares to deal a strong blow. As the leader bears down his sword, our guy blocks the attack with his hand, which he had covered with mana. Our guy smiles through the whole thing as usual, and his quick reaction surprises Number 1. After blocking the attack, Big Ang jumps out of the way. He recognizes that his opponent doesn't have the great destructive power that Gujim had, but is quite fast, precise, and deadly. Each of Number 1's attacks is a deadly strike that is aimed at vital points in the body. Moreover, the amount of power embedded in Number 1's sword is overwhelming, so our hero knows a barrier won't work, and he won't be able to keep blocking it with his mana blade. Suddenly, Bigang performs a huge attack that forces his opponent to move backwards. Number 1 lands next to his men and finds something strange. Number 1 explains that he's finding it hard to recognize it, but he knows that the power Bigang is using is entirely different from the martial arts of the orthodox sects. He doesn't believe that it's possible that our guy just stumbled upon this power, so he asks him if it's demonic arts. Amused, Bigang reminds him that the demonic cult has fallen for many years, so that's nonsense. He tells Number 1 that his method has nothing to do with demonic arts, but he reveals that he's right to say that it's not the usual martial arts. With that information, Number 1 realizes that this guy isn't someone they can easily take down. He soon activates an animalistic aura behind him and assures Bigang he will take his life, even though he has no personal issues with him. Number 1 cranks up his aura to 100% and explains that all of this is because of the mission of the Ghost Shadow Manor. Immediately, Number 1 disappears, and that gets our hero's attention. From that moment, all he sees are bright streaks of light flowing around due to a skill called the Soul-Destroying Stride. He recognizes this as a special movement technique that erases all the presence of the user and makes the opponent confused due to extremely fast movement, giving the user a chance to take him out. Surprised, Bigang attempts to block the attack using his mana blades, but his hand is sliced off by Number 1, who uses the Ghost Soul Flash technique. As the blood gushes out, Bigang looks at his hands in surprise because the strike was too fast to perceive with the eyes. Number 1 looks at Bigang, who has been injured, but notices that his body is suddenly fading away. The real Bigang soon leaks out behind him with a huge smile, and it's clear the old one was an illusion. It is at this moment that Number 1 realizes he messed up. He turns around in surprise, but he's met by a punch that tears his mask off and knocks him into another plane of reality. The punch launches him backwards and even causes him to bounce on the pavement for some time. Meanwhile, Number 5, who's been watching the fight, screams out in shock and goes to help his boss. Eventually, Number 1 gets his composure and asks Bigang how he was able to do that. Eventually, Bigang asks them if they really take pride in their stealth skills. They don't know that he's using a magic ability called Search that allows him to see the heat from their body no matter how they hide. Our hero soon proposes they address a different thing, and he asks about the Ghost Shadow Manor Lord, the Origin Sect leader. When he hears that, Number 1 is shocked. Origin Sect is a mysterious sect that's like a ghost in Jiangnu because they never appear in any official events. At this point, people don't know if they're orthodox or unorthodox. They cover up their true goals and structure quite well. Because of that, the direct blood relatives of this sect, including their leader, were wiped out and most of Jianghu didn't notice. Only those who were born and raised in the Origin Sect knew the truth. It is those of them who survived these terrible times that later emerged as Ghost Shadow Manor with the goal of gathering information throughout Jianghu. At this point, Ghost Shadow Manor has now ranked up to a top-tier mercenary organization by helping people take care of all kinds of dirty and dangerous missions. Bigang narrates this and adds that the reason they're doing this is because they want to restore the fallen Origin Sect. For a moment, Number 1 just shivers, and he considers it impossible that this guy would know so much about them. He knows this history is a top-level secret, and it's never once been leaked in decades. Eventually, Bigang asks them to do missions he'll give them and offers to give them information concerning the thing that they've been after all this time. Annoyed, Number 1 accuses Bigang of saying trash. Apparently, they've spent 20 years going through the Central Plains with little hope because of this mission, so he angrily asks Bigang if he even understands what they're looking for. Immediately, our hero tells him that he knows they're looking for the blood of the Origin Sect. He explains that they're looking for a special bloodline that can fully inherit the martial arts of the Origin Sect, especially people characterized by a special birthmark on their left wrist. Number 1 just stares at him incredulously because Bigang is right. However, he knows only a few within Ghost Shadow Manor know about this secret, so he asks Bigang how he knows about this. Our hero doesn't tell him more and tells him to choose between accepting his request or wasting the rest of their lives chasing the wind. After hesitating for a moment, Number 1 reaches for his sword, but our guy stands on guard just in case he does something stupid. Eventually, the guy sheathes his sword and accepts Bigang's mission. However, he promises to pay Bigang back with everything he has if it turns out that this is a lie. As usual, our guy smiles like a maniac and gives them the first mission. Sometime later, some men are brutally murdered. One of the men screams out in pain as the murderer, a young girl, releases some magical force over his face. She holds down his hand and ignores his screaming but continues what she's doing. Eventually, the lady speaks to the man she's holding, whom she recognizes as Mak Huil, the vice leader of the Black Scorpion Gang, also known as the destructive fist-fighting demon. She reminds him that he attacked a certain place a month ago with his subordinates, then killed all the men and raped all the women. She explains that the women who survived commissioned her to kill him. While writhing in pain, Mak calls the girl the B-word, but he also realizes he can't gather his internal energy. He doesn't understand why his internal energy is slowly growing faint and insults the lady again. Annoyed, he reminds her that he's the vice leader of the Black Scorpion, but the lady calls him an idiot. She soon raises her blade and stabs his face while he begs her to wait. Once she's done, the lady gets up and walks to the nearby window. Suddenly, a dove appears with a paper tied to its leg, and the lady realizes she's been commissioned to perform a new task. When she opens the paper, she learns it's from an instructor of the Dragon Spring Academy named Bigang. Sometime later, Sung trains in the academy. However, Bigang tells him to cut the crap and release the tension by adjusting his position. Even though Sung lemons, our guy tells him to do the position 200 more times. When Sung starts to curse, Bigang moves in to hit him for being sassy about his instructing methods. Shocked, Sung pleads that he wait and asks to say what he wants to say before he gets hit. Bigang lets him speak, so Sung asks him why he isn't making Wookyeon do anything. Nearby, Wookyeon practices on his own. Eventually, Bigang explains that Wookyeon is doing well on his own. However, Sung insists he's not doing anything and points out that he even seems to be sleeping. After getting his head pounded by his instructor, Sung goes back to work. Bigang tells him not to think Wookyeon is on the same level as he is, so he tells him to get back to practice and shut his mouth. Meanwhile, Bigang looks at Wookyeon and thinks he's doing a good job with his mana cultivation. He doesn't want Wookyeon to limit himself by the original sword techniques of the Supreme Dragon Heaven-severing sword, so he can move to the swordsmanship his senses are guiding him to. He knows it's only with that genius talent that Wookyeon can reach a higher level than this. Suddenly, Bigang is approached by Lijung, so our guy asks him if he's completed his ki circulation already. Lijung explains that he's not done, but he keeps getting worried. He asks Bigang if it's really possible for him to just circulate his ki like he ordered him to, so Bigang explains that this is the only way for him to solve his issue. The other way would be for him to find some rare elixirs, but they both know that's not happening. Bigang tells him that he has to always keep circulating his ki except when he's sleeping or eating, and then he leaves him. As our hero walks away, he recognizes that Lijung must be feeling like he's being rushed. He knows Lijung knows he was only able to beat Wookyeon in the duel because of tricks. However, Bigang knows that there's no other way to resolve Lijung's problem immediately than to take this route. Bigang also recalls he has bigger issues to deal with, and he recalls that it's been 10 days since he gave Ghost Shadow Manor his mission. Because they've not contacted him, he realizes there might be a problem with his plans. While he's thinking, he's approached by Instructor Dung, and our guy turns to him with his sour face, but tells him it's nice to see him. Dung points out the obvious contradiction in his words and his expression, so Bigang explains that he's busy with class and Dung is bothering him. However, Dung points out that he's lying because he's been wandering around since. Even though he's angry, Dung decides to hold back because of the gory image he saw when he went to check what Bigang did to his targets. With a muffled tone, he tells Bigang to report to the main hall immediately because Vice Director Chien wants to see him. Shortly after, Bigang appears in the main hall, so Chien asks him how it's been since they've not seen each other for a while. With his dorky smile, Bigang explains that he's fine. To rub things in, he points out that being able to teach his cadets, who have such great talent, makes him feel the worth of being a senior instructor every day. He even thanks Chien for creating a class of outstanding cadets. Chien is forced to agree that he's doing well and expresses his gladness that Bigang is doing well. Suddenly, the Vice Director reminds him that the Dragon Spring Academy is an academy underneath the Orthodox Alliance. He points out that the Alliance seems to have many concerns that they made an instructor who lacked the experience as senior instructor, so Bigang expresses his surprise. Bigang is surprised that the Alliance is interested in a mere instructor like him, but a woman standing nearby tells Bigang to be respectful. Our hero turns backwards and is shocked. The woman steps out and Chien explains that the Orthodox Alliance has sent out an inspector to support him. The woman steps forward and introduces herself as Instructor Mei Cielen, and our guy can't believe his eyes. When he realizes his expression, he apologizes and explains that he was swept away by her beauty. Amused, the lady thanks him for the compliment, and Chien points out that Mei is a rising female master within the Orthodox Alliance. He adds that she's a great master who has reached the peak realm at a very young age. Because of that, he tells Bigang to do his job as a senior instructor, but to ensure he's not discourteous towards Inspector Mei. Bigang agrees, but he looks at Mei with an interesting look on his face. In a flashback to when he gave the members of the Ghost Shadow Manor his mission, he asked them about the soul-taking celestial maiden called the Assassin. Number 1 is shocked that he's bringing up her name, but admits that he knows her. Apparently, she's a contract assassin who works by herself without any comrades or affiliations. Apart from that, she's known to have never failed a commission she's received. Number 1 admits that he's never met her, but he knows her targets are always found with their lives sucked out of them. Number 1 asks him if the mission is to kill the soul-taking celestial maiden, but our guy tells them it's not. He asks them to call her to the Dragon Spring Academy, and number one looks at him in confusion. Our guy also tells him to tell Chien that they have to cancel a commission due to some unexpected occurrence. In a flashback to when they relayed this message to Chien, Chien reacts with extreme anger and accuses them of being irresponsible. Regardless, he's told that an urgent matter has occurred and they won't be able to handle it. However, number one offers to introduce him to someone who's perfect for the job, and he offers to pay the commission fee as an apology. Back to when Big Gang told them about it, number one admits that he's reached out to the maiden for a mission before, so he'll be able to reach her. However, number one asks him why he'd make such a stupid decision since the maiden is a merciless and thorough assassin. He knows that she'll find a way to kill him no matter how strong he is. Amused, Big Gang tells number one not to be worried about him. But number one reminds him he's only worried that he'll get killed before he can give them the information he promised. Eventually, Big Gang admits that the maiden is quite dangerous, but he explains that this is the reason he needs her.